Good evening and welcome to the Public Global. Today we'll be discussing reasons for Aam Aadmi Party losing elections in Delhi and who's responsible for it. We'll be analyzing that. The many analysis explaining that Aam Aadmi Party poll debacle in Delhi are missing one important player, the Supreme Court. After a decade in power, Arvind Kejriwal's party lost to Delhi Bharatiya Janata Party by less than 2% vote margin. Analysts have since picked up the reasons: poor sanitation, water supply issues, crumbling civic infrastructure, unemployment, and the failure of to retain swing voters amongst other. While Aam Aadmi Party has made strides in education and the power sector, it is now clear that voters expected more. This is what the analysis of the last election in Delhi is. It is not that AAP has never delivered on its promise. Delhi health and education landscape, for instance, saw the changes the party brought in. It is for a reason that it has secured 62 out of 70 seats in 2020 assembly seats and won the most seats in the MCD elections in December 2022. That means the public was voting for them. And they lost elections only by 1.5% or 1.75% vote. The real question then is, was it unwilling to continue to make good on its promise, or did circumstances and other players make it impossible? Whether they lost on their own or whether BJP was too powerful for them to belie or defeat Aam Aadmi Party. The trouble became long ago before the liquor policy case that eventually ensnared Aam Aadmi Party's top leadership. On Tuesday, there was this report that was tabled by the CAG, which said that if the old policy would have continued, then 2,000 additional loss would not have been booked. The reasons given are many. It's saying that they had given, L1 licenses to private people. It was not following a tendering process, because of which 1,800 crore of losses were booked. Then there were other anomalies because of which 200 additional crore rupees was lost. So total 2,200 crore rupees was lost because of the excise liquor policy. However, the CM of Aam Aadmi Party, Atishi, says that it is not so true, because we implemented the same policy in Punjab, where the profits increased from 6,100 in financial year 21-22 to 10,000 crore in 24-25. The same was escavaged here. We did not want smuggling to happen from neighboring states like UP and Haryana. We also wanted to branch out to places where there was smuggling of liquor going on. There were cartels working as ladders, supplying liquor to areas where there were no liquor shops. So we have initially started more liquor shops, the outreach program, and that is why we were planning to increase our reach, so that the smuggling does not happen and everything comes to the state exchequer. But then the CAG also blames that this money loss was also due to because they had given contracts for retail outlets or for wholesale outlets to the same people who were either manufacturers or were close to manufacturers. So there were only few companies that could sell their products across Delhi, and there were few companies which did not get enough margins or enough space to sell their products. So there was a virtual monopoly situation that was created with the new excise policy. However, Atishi also says that these new facts that the CAG is saying are basically fabricated facts. Is because of the Delhi LG, the CBI, and the ED, which soon after 7 months of implementation of policy started, kind of harassing us. In fact, CBI had filed a charge sheet. Within 7 months, they had filed charges against us. And the 8th month, ECIR was filed by the ED. And LG was not willing to give permissions for non-conforming areas. And that's the sole reason why this policy did not work in Delhi and we had to take it back. And also the other party which says that, the Supreme Court also responsible for the debacle of Delhi elections. And how it is, we will discuss bit by bit. The elected Delhi government's power to govern has been taken away by the union government, and the judiciary allowed this to happen. This is what some people are saying, that judiciary allowed the powers to be taken away from Delhi government, and which is for the reason that they became helpless. Arvind Kejriwal was put behind bars. Manish Sisodia was put behind bars. Much later, after 18 months, he got bail. Arvind Kejriwal was close to a year. He was in jail. Satyendra Jain was in jail for close to 2.5, 3 years. So that also made Aam Aadmi Party vulnerable to the exigencies of ED, CBI, and the union government. However, the long fight over controlling the services, which is the elected Delhi government, had been in constant state of battle with its own bureaucracy since May 2015, when the Union Ministry of Home Affairs issued a circular granting the Lieutenant Governor total control over services. He could not. The CM is not could not even transfer official working under him. Most of the powers were given to LG, and bureaucrats follow only power. And whosoever hold authority to transfer, appoint, or punish them is the real boss. So it was clearly shown through the LG by the Union Home Ministry that LG is the boss. He can only transfer, he can only appoint, he can only punish. Stripped of this power completely, Kejriwal government rushed to challenge the circular in court. After a year and a half, the Delhi High Court ruled in LG's favor. When the matter was appealed at the Supreme Court, the court took another 2 years, a long time to deliver a verdict distinguished between the LG's role and that of the elected cabinet. So LG was actually responsible to run the Delhi government, and rather than becoming a figurehead, he became the real head of the government. This July 2018 5-judge constitution bench judgment was a partial victory for Aam Aadmi Party. It held that the LG had no independent decision-making power and was bound by the advice of the elected government. However, the crucial question of who controlled the services was referred back to the two-judge bench, which after 7 months delivered a split verdict. So first they say LG does not have a power, then it goes to a double bench, and then after 7 months, a split verdict is given that who controls the reins. So it can be said it's a failure of the courts to protect the constitution and to protect the government which was elected by the people. What followed was judicial abdication of its most consequential. Instead of prompting constituting a large bench, the Supreme Court left it in cold storage for 4 years. So virtually for 5 years, Aam Aadmi Party government was ineffective, could not work. And the sole reason is that all the educating authorities were supposed to give powers to the state to transfer, appoint, or punish the officers was given to the LG. And no decision was ever taken. So union government or the executive was heavy on the courts for courts not to react on the union government's unconstitutional decisions. While the many analyses explaining the Aam Aadmi Party's poll debacle in Delhi are missing one important player, the Supreme Court, as I said. So what we can say is that this is the complete failure of democracy, and because of the health and education landscape of Delhi, for instance, saw the changes the party brought it in. It secured 62 out of 70 seats, and after which it falls flat because of the role that the LG played, because of the role the Union Home Ministry played, and because of the 5-judge bench committee in January 2018, that despite noting the fact that LG has no role in appointment, punishing, or transferring people, the crucial question was not answered, is that who will be responsible for services? And this responsibility of services was never ever clarified. So this is what the problem is. In 2015, also the ACB, which is the anti-corruption branch, was taken away from the elected government's control, also crippling Aam Aadmi Party's promise to prosecute the corrupt. Officers refused to follow ministerial orders, safe in the knowledge that they were reporting to the LG. No one took responsibility when the chikungunya outbreak paralyzed part of the city in 2016. In 2017, Kejriwal and his cabinet staged a sit-in at the LG residence over allegations that he was sitting in files related to Aam Aadmi Party's flagship Mohalla clinic schemes. In 2018, the crisis reached boiling point. Delhi Chief Secretary Anshu Prakash accused Aam Aadmi Party leaders of assaulting him at Kejriwal's residence. And this was all widely published. What followed was a full-blown administrative revolt. Officers boycotted meeting and governance ground to a halt. The elected government hands were tied, but from the front, allowing it to some space to move and storm back power in 2020. They came back to power despite the fact that there are differences with the LG. However, in May 2023, after 4 years, a 5-judge constitutional bench led by Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, finally ruled in the elected government favors, affirming that control over services must rest with the elected government. The judgment was empathetic in defense of representative democracy. If a democratically elected government is not provided with the powers to control the officers posted in its domain, then the principle underlining the triple chain of collective responsibility would become redundant. This is what the 5-judge bench led by CJI Chandrachud said. A democratically elected government can perform only when there is an awareness on the part of the officers that the consequences which may ensure if they will not perform. It was a clear thing, but it happened only after 5 years when it got elected for the second time. However, Aam Aadmi Party's celebration did not follow for much time. Following the judgment, panic set in amongst the officers of the Delhi Secretariat. Those who had once been defiant, some even openly rude to their ministers, suddenly changed track. Officers who had previously ignored ministerial directives now loitered outside their minister's office for hours. So this is what happens when bureaucracy has to be answerable. This is what they do when they're asked to bend, they crawl. However, this win was only brief. As I said, within a week, the Modi government promulgated an ordinance reversing the court's verdict, restoring the LG's control over services. By August 2023, Parliament was ratified it as a law. The court judgment itself contained the seeds of its own undoing. Paragraph 695 and 164F, as quoted by the Union Home Minister Amit Shah himself, while debating the bill in Parliament, left just enough space for the centre to waltz in and reverse the ruling. And this is what the union government does whenever there is a decision by the Supreme Court. Rather than abiding by it, it always brings in its own amendment and change the rule. However, if the parliament enacts a law granting executive powers on any subject which is within the domain of National Capital Region, the executive power of the Lieutenant Governor shall be modified to the extent as provided in that law, the court held in para 95. Given the court's deep institutional experience, it is difficult to believe that the judges and the author of judgment, CJI Chandrachud, were unaware of the consequences of their phrasing, because they said that it shall be modified, the executive powers of the Lieutenant Governor shall be modified to the extent as provided in that law. So it was a lead rather than a control given to the Delhi government. It was a lead for the union government that if you really want the LG to be a superpower, kindly change your laws. Judicial foresight is not just about interpreting the law, it is about anticipating its implication and sometimes preempting them. The CJI's judgment, affirmed by the other four judges, effectively handed the centre a loophole on a silver platter. That whatever are the LG powers is defined by the executive orders. This is what the judiciary said. When Aam Aadmi Party challenged the New Delhi Services Act 2023 in Supreme Court, the same CJI Chandrachud, who was the master of the roster, control cases listing, referred the challenge to a constitution bench but never listed it despite multiple requests by Delhi government lawyer. A year and a half later, he retired without taking up the case. His successor, Chief Justice Rajiv Khanna, has shown the same lack of interest in the matter. When Parliament may legislate and matters concerning Delhi, does it have the powers to do so in a manner that takes away the basic of the representative democracy? This is the question that people are asking. That if legislative intervention systematically strips an elected government of its power, rendering it functionally subordinate to an unelected administrator, then what remains of democratic representation? The Supreme Court is yet to decide the matter. So this is what the problem is. The executive and the judiciary are playing through the gallery, and elected governments, opposition-ruled states, whether it's Telangana, whether it's Karnataka, whether it's Delhi, whether it's West Bengal, whether it's Punjab, all these governments face a lot of problems through EDI, CBI, pending cases in the Supreme Court. And this constitutional crisis has been there not for one CGI, but for regular 5 successive CGIs of India. Whether it is Ranjan Gogoi starting 2019, Sharad Bobde, N.V. Ramanna, D.Y. Chandrachud partially, and Sanjeev Khanna, only Chief Justice U.U. Lalit, Ramanna's successor, despite a mere 73 tenure, demonstrated urgency, ensuring that a constitutional bench heard the case. This near total inertia from the highest court raises serious question. So you are the judge that why did Aam Aadmi Party lose elections? Because it was actually made non-working by the union government. And even the Chief Justice of India, who's the master of the roster, part of the constitutional bench, could not save it. This is the status of democracy or representative democracy as of today. You decide who do you want at the center. I hope you like the program for today. I will come back to you again, maybe next Friday. Goodbye. Thank you for listening.